The email arrived at 6:47 a.m. on a Thursday, marked urgent from a real estate agent I'd never heard of. Subject: Final walkthrough scheduled, Lake Haven property, 2 p.m. today. I was in my car outside a coffee shop in downtown Minneapolis, reviewing acquisition documents on my laptop. The merger had been in final stages for 3 weeks. My medical software company being purchased by a Fortune 500 healthcare conglomerate. Numbers that made my head spin. Lawyers reviewing every clause. I opened the email. Per Michael Chen's authorization, we have 4 interested buyers scheduled for final tours of 2847 Lake Haven Drive before tomorrow's foreclosure auction. Please ensure property is accessible and staging remains intact. Auction starts 10 a.m. Friday, minimum bid $750,000. I read it 3 times. Lake Haven Drive. That was my house. The A-frame on Lake Minnetonka that I'd bought 6 years ago when my startup was still operating out of a strip mall office. The house with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water, where I'd coded the breakthrough algorithm that made my company valuable enough for acquisition. Michael was my brother. He had no authorization to schedule anything. And there was no foreclosure. I called my bank. The mortgage officer pulled up my account while I waited, my coffee going cold in the cup holder. Miss Chen, your account shows current. Last payment processed March 1st. No late fees, no default notices. Where did you hear about a foreclosure? My brother apparently told realtors there's an auction tomorrow. Silence. Then, ma'am, there's no auction. Your loan is in good standing. If someone is representing otherwise, that's fraud. I thanked her and hung up. Then I opened the family group chat. The messages went back 5 days. I'd been too buried in merger paperwork to check. Michael, Karen's finally losing the lake house. Bank auction Friday. Dad, about time. That place was always too much for her. Michael, I'm coordinating with realtors. Figure we can split whatever's left after the bank takes their cut. Mom, does Karen know? Michael, she knows she couldn't afford it. This is just reality. I took a screenshot. Added it to a folder on my phone labeled Documentation Family. The folder already contained 37 other screenshots spanning 4 years. Then I called my attorney. At 9:30 a.m. I was in Janet Wu's office. She was the corporate attorney handling my merger, a woman who'd negotiated deals worth hundreds of millions and didn't waste time on pleasantries. Your brother is committing real estate fraud, she said, scanning the email I'd forwarded. He's misrepresenting property ownership to facilitate an unauthorized sale. Can he actually sell it though? He's not on the deed. No. But he can create enough chaos that you're dealing with legal complications instead of focusing on your merger. Which closes when? Next Wednesday. Pending final regulatory approval. She nodded slowly. This is strategic. He knows you're distracted. He's gambling you won't have time to stop him before the auction narrative becomes difficult to untangle. What do I do? First, we send cease and desist letters to every realtor he contacted. Second, we file a police report for fraud and misrepresentation. Third, she paused. When does your merger payout clear? The wire transfer happens the day after closing. Next Thursday. Then we wait 72 hours and solve this permanently. I drove to the lake house at 1:45 p.m. 15 minutes before the first final tour was scheduled. 3 cars were already in the driveway. I recognized Michael's truck. The other 2 had real estate company logos on the doors. I parked behind them, blocking them in, and walked to the front door. It was unlocked. Inside, I found Michael in my living room with 2 realtors pointing at the windows. Fantastic natural light, and the dock access is included in the sale. He stopped when he saw me. Karen, what are you doing here? I live here. What are you doing here? The realtors exchanged glances. The woman, mid-50s in a sharp blazer, extended her hand. Barbara Martinez. Your brother said you'd authorized him to handle the sale due to financial hardship. I authorized nothing. There's no foreclosure. My mortgage is current. My brother has no ownership stake in this property and no authority to sell it. Michael's face went red. Karen, don't be dramatic. You can't afford this place anymore. The bank called me. The bank called you? I just spoke with my mortgage officer. Everything is current. There is no auction tomorrow. I turned to the realtors. I'm the sole owner of this property. Any sale arrangements made through my brother are fraudulent. I've already filed a police report. The male realtor, Younger, already had his phone out. I'm calling our broker. Barbara looked at Michael, her expression hardening. Mr. Chen, did you misrepresent your authority regarding this property? No, she doesn't understand her own financial situation. I understand it perfectly, I said. I also understand that Minnesota Statute 609.821 makes it a felony to fraudulently claim property ownership to facilitate a transaction. You're looking at up to 5 years. The realtors left within 3 minutes, Barbara muttering about liability and lawsuit exposure. Michael stayed standing in my living room like he belonged there. You can't actually afford this place, he said finally. Your company is failing. Dad said you're barely making payroll. Dad doesn't know anything about my company's finances. You're behind on the mortgage. That's why the bank. I'm not behind. Call them yourself if you don't believe me. I pulled out my phone, showing him the bank app with my current balance and payment history. Everything is current. There is no foreclosure. You made that up. His face shifted through several expressions: confusion, anger, then something else. Calculation. Fine. So you made one payment. You're still going to lose it eventually. You can't sustain this. That's not your decision to make. Family looks out for each other, Karen. I was trying to help you avoid the embarrassment of a public foreclosure. By staging a fake one instead? You don't get it. Dad and I were going to split the proceeds with you. After the bank took their cut, you'd still walk away with something instead of nothing. I stared at him. Michael, there's no bank cut. If I sold this house, I'd get the full equity minus my remaining mortgage. That's about $420,000 at current market value. What exactly were you planning to give me? He didn't answer. Let me guess, I continued. You told Dad the bank would take most of it. You were planning to pocket the difference. How much were you going to tell me I was getting? 50,000? 75. That's not, you can't prove. Get out of my house. Karen. Get out or I'm calling the police right now for trespassing. He left. But not before saying, you'll regret this. Family doesn't forget. That night Dad called. I was sitting on my dock watching the sunset reflect off the lake, trying to decompress from a day that felt like a fever dream. Karen, your brother explained the situation. You embarrassed him in front of those realtors. He committed fraud, Dad. He told them he had authority to sell my house. He was trying to help you. You're in over your head with that place. My mortgage is current. My finances are fine. Your company is struggling. Michael said. Michael doesn't know anything about my company. I paused. Dad, did he tell you about splitting proceeds? Silence. Then, we discussed helping you with the transition. What percentage was I supposed to get? More silence. Dad, if this house sold for $750,000 and my mortgage is $330,000, the equity is $420,000. How much of that were you planning to give me? The bank would take fees. There is no bank auction. This is fraud. Michael lied to you, he lied to realtors, and he tried to steal $400,000 from me. That's a serious accusation. It's a serious crime. I have emails. I have documentation. If he contacts another realtor about my property, I'm pressing charges. You do that? To your own brother. He tried to steal my house. Dad's voice went cold. You always thought you were better than us. That fancy college, that startup that's going nowhere. Maybe Michael's right. Maybe you can't handle adult responsibilities. He hung up. I sat there for a long time watching darkness creep across the water. The merger closed the following Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Time. I was in a conference room with Janet and 3 executives from the acquiring company, signing documents that represented 6 years of 18-hour days, failed prototypes, and a breakthrough algorithm that could predict patient deterioration 48 hours before traditional monitoring systems. The purchase price, $47 million. My ownership stake, 18%. My payout, $8.46 million minus taxes and fees. Net proceeds after everything, $5.2 million wired to my account the following morning. I sat in my car in the parking lot, staring at my phone screen showing the deposit confirmation. The number didn't feel real. Then I called my mortgage company. I'd like to pay off my loan. Complete payoff today. The remaining balance was $327,450. I paid it from my phone while sitting in a Target parking lot buying groceries. The confirmation email arrived 4 minutes later. Loan number 4729583 paid in full, property lien released. I forwarded it to Janet with a simple message, problem solved. Her response came back immediately, now for the fun part. The revelation came 48 hours later on a Saturday morning. Michael had scheduled another final tour, with a different real estate company. I learned this from an apologetic voicemail from an agent named Rebecca Stone, who'd received my attorney's cease and desist but wanted to verify the situation before proceeding. Your brother was very convincing, she said. He had documentation showing financial hardship, pending foreclosure notices. If this is fraudulent, we need to notify the state licensing board. I called her back. What documentation? Forged bank letters. I'm looking at them now. They're good forgeries, official letterhead case numbers. But when I called the bank directly to verify the auction details, they said no such case exists. Can you email me copies? She did. I forwarded them to Janet, who forwarded them to a detective in the financial crimes unit. At 3 p.m. 2 police officers showed up at Michael's apartment. I know because Dad called me screaming. The police are at your brother's house. For what? Embarrassing you. You called the cops on your own family. He committed forgery and fraud. He created fake bank documents to facilitate the unauthorized sale of my property. That's a felony. It's a misunderstanding. It's a crime. He forged bank letterhead, fabricated case numbers, and presented false documents to real estate agents. Minnesota Statute 609.625. Forgery. Up to 5 years, $10,000 fine. You're really going to let them charge him? I didn't charge him. The state did based on evidence. I just filed the initial report. This is about money, isn't it? You got your little payout and now you think you're better than everyone. The payout that Michael told you didn't exist? The company you said was failing. Silence. My merger closed Wednesday, I continued. My company sold for $47 million. I owned 18%. I paid off the lake house mortgage yesterday. I have no debt, no financial hardship, and absolutely no tolerance for family members who commit felonies to steal from me. You should have told us about the merger. Why? So Michael could try to claim he was entitled to some of it? So you could tell me I owed you for raising me? We're your family. Family doesn't forge documents to steal your house. I hung up. The procedural justice phase happened faster than I expected. The prosecutor assigned to Michael's case was a woman named Sarah Chen, no relation, who specialized in white-collar crime. She called me the following Tuesday. Miss Chen, your brother's attorney reached out about a plea arrangement. Given the documented evidence, the forged bank letters, the misrepresentation to multiple real estate agents, the clear intent to facilitate an unauthorized sale, we're prepared to offer a deal. Reduced charges in exchange for guilty plea, restitution, and probation. What's the restitution? We calculated based on potential damages. If the sale had gone through at the fraudulent auction, you would have lost approximately $420,000 in equity. The restitution amount is set at $100,000. He doesn't have $100,000. Then he'll be on a payment plan, possibly for the rest of his life. I thought about it. Michael, who'd never held a steady job for more than 2 years. Michael, who still lived in a one-bedroom apartment at 34 because he couldn't save money. Michael owing me $100,000 he'd never be able to pay. What happens if he refuses the plea? We go to trial. With this evidence, we'd likely win. He'd face the maximum sentence, 5 years, and the restitution amount would increase to cover legal fees and court costs. I'll think about it. I hung up and called Janet. Do I have to accept the restitution? I asked. No. You can decline it. The criminal charges proceed based on the state's case, but you're not required to pursue financial damages. What if I want him to face consequences but I don't want his money? Then you tell the prosecutor you're declining restitution. He still faces criminal penalties, probation, community service, a felony record. But he won't owe you financially. That's what I did. I called Sarah Chen back and declined the restitution. Are you sure? She asked. This is $100,000. I'm sure. I don't want his money. I want him to have a record that shows he committed fraud. I want it documented that he can't be trusted. All right. I'll amend the plea offer. Michael accepted it 3 days later. Guilty plea to felony fraud. 3 years probation. 200 hours community service. And a permanent criminal record. No restitution. No payment plan. Just consequences. Mom called 2 weeks later. I almost didn't answer. Your brother can't get a job now, she said. No greeting, no preamble. He has a felony record. Do you know what you've done to him? He has a felony record because he committed a felony. I didn't forge bank documents. I didn't lie to real estate agents. He did that. You could have dropped the charges. The state pressed charges, not me. Once he committed fraud with forged documents, it became a criminal matter. You didn't have to cooperate with the prosecutor. You're right. I could have let him think he'd get away with it. Then he might have tried it again with someone else and ended up with a longer sentence. He's your brother. And I'm his sister. That didn't stop him from trying to steal my house. Mom made a sound somewhere between a sigh and a sob. The family is falling apart because of you. The family fell apart when Michael committed a felony and Dad helped him plan it. I'm just the one who stopped pretending it was okay. She hung up. 6 months later, I was sitting on my dock at the lake house, reading email on my tablet. The second phase of the merger had completed. My old company was now fully integrated into the healthcare conglomerate's platform. My algorithm was being deployed in hospitals across 3 states. Lives were being saved. Measurably, documentably saved by code I'd written. I'd started consulting, helping other healthcare startups navigate acquisitions. The work was interesting. The pay was more than comfortable. The lake house had appreciated another $80,000 in value. I'd renovated the kitchen, updated the dock, and installed a home office with 3 monitors where I could work overlooking the water. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Michael. I know you won't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know I'm sorry. You were right. What I did was wrong. I don't expect forgiveness. Just wanted you to know. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I blocked the number. Not because I was angry, but as I was done. Done with the dynamic where I was supposed to absorb their bad behavior and call it love. Done with being the family member expected to sacrifice so everyone else could stay comfortable. The sun was setting, painting the lake in shades of gold and amber. I had a video call scheduled with a startup founder in Seattle in 20 minutes, and after that, a quiet evening with a book and the sound of water lapping against the dock. Family group chat notifications still appeared on my phone sometimes. I'd muted them months ago. Never read them anymore. Sometimes I wondered if I should feel guilty. Mostly I just felt free.